Good evening, Iowa and the world. Welcome to the Doc and Lefty program here, broadcasting to you from the webcast1live.com studios in ever-lovely downtown Des Moines. This is Lefty coming to you with my host, the big man in the booth, the ace whose face just can't grace the pace. It's Dr. Pat Petrosh. Doc, what's up?
Now, tell me you spent more than just the 2 seconds before the show coming up with that.
I did not.
You spent the 2 seconds coming up with that?
That was off the dome, fresh right out the box.
No wonder you're an excellent musician. You can just make stuff up
what
on
can
the
I
fly.
say?
Man,
what can I say?
What do you think, DJ Matty G? Wasn't that pretty good? Oh, yeah. We get a thumbs up from her.
Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. So, anyway, what have you been up to? Anything good?
Just kind of status quo, rehearsing with the band, trying to get our set tight, looking for an emergency gig for. And when I say emergency gig, I mean that the guys in the band want me to try and find something for next Friday the 19th or Saturday the 20th, and we can only fill 2 hours, so I don't know that that's going to happen. At least around here. So, but other than that, it's.
Well, I thought maybe you were talking about we needed to get the paddles out for your career or something.
No,
good.
Nothing like that. I could.
Mandy's not doing a very good job switching off from. I'm over here dinking around on Facebook, and this is what they're seeing. They're seeing me.
Oh man, she's missing. I don't know what.
Oh, no,
she's missing something. I don't. You got to quit calling out the producer though, Doc, because honestly,
I'm going to quit.
I'm going to get all of the. I'm going to get the good edit. Not that I need it. But what's on your mind?
Well, not much. There's a lot of things going on in the rugby world. So I've been keeping up with that. That's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I enjoy that quite a bit. I was talking to a guy not too long ago from New Zealand.
Right.
And, I'm a big guy. I'm a big fat guy. And the wide receiver spots is called the back in rugby. That's what I played when I was playing. And I had the same kind of shoulders and chest. I just didn't have Big Frank hanging off me back then, right? So he's looking at me and he says, well, what did you play back then? And I said, well, I played, this by number. I played number 12 and 14 and would rotate into the fullback. And so he goes, great. So I said, what did you do? And he goes, I used to be a prop.
Don't know what that means.
Well, that's the big giant guys like the lineman, right?
Okay.
And so I'm looking at this guy. He's no bigger than Maddie. And I'm looking at him like, really? And he goes, yeah, I've lost a little bit. I went, dude, I've gained it all for you. So anyway, we had a good laugh over that. We had talked. That was pretty fun and exciting. I'm going to take a minute because, generally I don't talk about a lot of personal stuff on here. And I generally don't talk a lot about my charity work. I generally don't. And the reason is I have a very firm belief if you're going to do charity, do it quietly, right? If you're out there telling everybody how generous you are and how much you do for other folk, then you're not really doing it for charity. You're doing it for your own ego. That's my
and I've got an anecdote to share about that exactly right after you finish up your thought.
All right. So I'm over in Ukraine, seeing some orphans need to be seen. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, there's got to be a different way to do this. There has to be a different way to do this because honest to goodness, I'm too old. I mean, I hate that nobody ever wants to admit they're old, but flying back and forth really takes a toll on a guy. So I started thinking, what can I do? What can I do? So I came up with the brilliant idea of asking an orphan, hey, what do you guys need here? Imagine that. Mm-hmm. Me asking the people that need help, how can I help you? So with that in mind, I called a friend of mine who is a genius at nonprofit work and does a ton of volunteer stuff. So I talked to her. And then there's another friend of mine, Jim Blessman. He's got Blessman Ministries. Does a fantastic load of work over in South Africa. And most importantly, he does it quietly. So it's wonderful. So I talked to him. I'm just letting everybody know today, with the help of Lefty, mm-hmm. I'm going to form a nonprofit. And this is what we're going to do with that nonprofit. We're initially going to start out by providing glasses to these kids who can't see. Here's the thing. When you think about social life medicine, you think that everything's taken care of, at least here in America. Mm-hmm. Turns out that isn't true, at least not in Ukraine. So if they can't see, they don't get glasses. So first, I'm going to ask that as soon as Lefty gets the paperwork done, we're going to have a website. We're going to have drop-off spots around the city where you can drop off glasses. Old glasses, new glasses, doesn't matter. Glasses, we'll take them all. If they help you read, we'll take everything we can. And then we're going to get these kids some business lessons and English lessons. We're going to teach them some basic life skills because this is something not everybody knows. But these kids, when they're 16, and sometimes they can stay until they're 18. But a lot of times when they're done, they're turned out into the street. So boys go into the mafia and girls go into the street. That's not all the time, and that's not every case. But a vast majority, that's what happens. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping to reverse it with this particular approach. One of the things I learned is if like the orphanages, if you look at the statistics, man, these kids do great in school. Here's what the problem is: the kids are given the answers to the tests, or they have national tests.
Right.
So they're given the answers to the test. They just fill in the circles and hand it in. They actually don't learn anything. They don't learn They don't learn math. They don't learn English. They don't learn anything like that. Most of these kids want to learn English. So we're going to start setting it up so that we have English as a second language. And then we're going to start putting together some orphanage trips so we can go over there. So that is my venture. And as things start to firm up, I'm going to let people know how they can help. I know Ukraine is a war-torn outbox hole. I don't know how else to say it. And that's where they're at. And if anybody needs some help, it's those orphans there. These kids, I actually had one kid, I was kind of like, man, I know what I'm doing here. And this kid comes up, they all want to hug you when you leave. So I was talking to my translator, and I said, I'm not even sure what I'm doing coming back here. And she looked me in the eye and she goes, I will tell you one thing that you give me, and that's hope. When you come and see these kids get a lot of hope. And honest to goodness, that's what these kids need. So that's really what I'm going to be focusing on this next year, is trying to get this built up and going. And that's very dear to my,
I do.
Is very dear to my heart. These kids, honest to goodness, they are some of the best kids, and they're some of the most tremendously damaged children that you can imagine. The other thing I found out on this trip, which I didn't know before, because it doesn't matter how often you go, you always learn something new. Most of these kids have at least one parent that's alive. And over there, they don't, they do. They turn the kids over to the orphanage if anything goes wrong, and they take care of themselves instead of trying to take care of their children. Mm-mm-mm. So, and that's not every case. Don't get me wrong. That's not every case, but that's a lot of cases. So I'm over there. That's going to be my goal for next year. So that's what's going on with me, very near and dear to my heart. Now, what we got coming up this next segment is we're going to talk a little bit about Uber, because Des Moines facing that kind of thing. I know in New York they've been trying to get rid of Uber. Mm-hmm. There's been some controversy surrounding some of the things that they've said and some of the mistakes that they've made. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then later on we're going to talk about the dropping oil prices. In a segment, I'm going to, and those of you that are geeks will get this. I'm going to call the segment "Frack You Liberals, Frack You Very Much," and then we're going to finish up with a little bit of a Obamacare hangover. What do you think? Sounds like a good show? That
sounds like a pretty full show. I guess we'll see what we have to see after the break.
Oh yeah, well boy, I think Lefty's getting geared. It's going to be a fun show. We want to thank all of our sponsors: Bertroshan Associates, Lubinas Law Firm, Des Moines Interest Rates. Halo Capital at Des Moines Interest Rates, Des Moines Anesthesia PC. Give them a call. They're great for pain management and anything that ails you when you need to be knocked out. Their number is 515-574-6442. Visit us at docandlefty.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We'll be back right after this break. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Bertroshan Associates, how can I help you?
Bertroshan Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertrosh, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're going to be talking a little bit about Uber and the kind of the mire they got into briefly here in Des Moines a couple of months ago. Before we do that, I wanted to you made a comment about your charity work and your ideas about charity. And here's a question I want to pose to you. So I've got a friend of mine who was asked to donate some time and donate a little bit of money. We're talking a little bit of money,
like
right?
$100 or something.
Yeah. Not anything super major for a young girl who was I think she was high school aged, who just passed away or 2 days ago from brain cancer.
That's just
it's an awful thing. And he donated this time, donated this money, and to a project that the family was putting on to kind of raise some money for her treatment or for her maybe a graduation, but I'm not sure exactly what the project was all about. And he was approached. Okay, he's known. He doesn't know this family very well, but knew the guy that approached him. The guy approached him, asking, "Hey, will you help out?" And he's like, "Absolutely, I absolutely will." And well, this friend then thanked everybody, but declined to mention my friend. Twice. This happened twice. Comes asking him for a little bit of help, then asking for a little bit of money. Didn't mention, hey, thanks to Tom, Dick, Harry, Joe, and Fred down the street, but didn't mention my friend or didn't even acknowledge that donation happened. And he got a hold of me and said he's feeling really upset, feeling really offended. And I guess before I tell you kind of what I said to him, how would you respond to something like that?
Well, I'm going to put my psych hat aside because, but essentially if I was just a regular person and they were telling me this, my point would be with them, why are you upset? I mean, this is something he asked you to do. You did it voluntarily. You got the benefit of seeking this, making this, the life better of this individual, making the family's life better. Do you really need acknowledgement of that? And if you do, why? And then talk with them after that. Mm-hmm. That would actually be my response.
And see, my response to that was I completely understand why you'd feel that way, because that kind of stinks. I feel like it's a completely natural, understandable reaction, but holy smokes, you got a kid with a disease, maybe not express that to the friend of yours. Yeah. But I was curious to know what you'd think about something.
Well, well, think about the people we've had on here that we've helped, right? We had Sam on.
Yep.
Right. A great guy. He doesn't get up there in a speech and go, I want to thank Doc and Lefty for having me on the show.
It wouldn't hurt, Sam.
It wouldn't hurt.
And it wouldn't. It certainly wouldn't go amiss with getting another appearance on the show.
That's right, Sam.
That's just a joke.
Yeah, this is because we're big time now.
We are,
and like Lee Heeb, she, and Brad was probably the most thankful of everybody. I mean, he did that. Tom Shaw was thankful.
That's true.
But for the most part, if you're trying to help somebody, expecting something at the end isn't all that reasonable. It's kind of like this. My mom told me one time, if you ever expect your children to be appreciative or grateful for what you've done for them, you're just plain crazy. That's a quote from my mom. So it's the same thing here, I feel. If you're going to help somebody, you help them because that's what the right thing to do is, and that's what you should do. I can understand his feelings of, well, hold on, you thanked everybody else, how come you're shafting me?
Right.
I can see that.
I don't think that he's wrong to feel that way, because I don't think there's necessarily a wrong way to feel about something that way, like that. But from what I understand, he asked the friend about what had happened, and the friend's response was, this guy's response was, well, man, that wasn't really the point. Sorry forgot. I don't know what you want from me, which I think that's probably pretty understandable too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would at least go up and say, well, hey,
Yep.
how come, I helped, I gave a few bucks, everybody else got thanked.
Yep.
One of the things that was funny is,
And I don't think it's a mistake to think it's intentional if literally everyone else except you. How do you forgetting a handful of people makes sense, but forgetting one person doesn't make sense.
yeah. And and I see that, but
Yep.
a lot of times things just slip your mind.
Right.
When I was on the campaign trail, I had a person give me, I think it was $500. And you know what? I was going through my old stuff here this summer, getting rid of stuff I didn't need. And I come across this donation, right? And I'm like, 3 years after the fact, maybe I should send a thank you note, right? Because, I tried on everybody else and I'm just like, sometimes it just happens, and you're absolutely correct. You ready to move on to Uber? Or you wanna,
Sure, absolutely. I wanted to see what you.
because we burned most of the segment on that.
Well,
We can continue to talk about good deeds.
Fair.
When was the last time you volunteered for something?
the last time I volunteered for something, man, it's been a while.
What was it?
Well, I mean, I donate a lot of time at my job to free legal stuff.
yes,
so
I
that's
forgot
part
about
of
that.
That's part of it. I mean, I don't take. There's ways to kind of, if you were to. The ABA keeps track of stuff like that, keeps estimates, and the Iowa State Bar keeps estimates of when you do pro bono work, and you're encouraged to do so much pro bono work per year. I don't keep track of that stuff. I just know that there are people who come along, there are clients of mine who have come along who, while I have maybe not said something along the lines of this is a strict pro bono relationship, what I've said it when they've come in and I've done all the work. And they've said, well, what do we owe you? And I've said, well, I'm not going to charge you for that. Or I'm not, don't worry about paying me, ever, or just writing it off or what. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah. So you do that. So, but at least you're doing that. There's a lot of people out there who don't even do that. And the thing is, this is the truth. It's a lot easier just to write a check than it is to go out and actually do something.
Yeah.
And if it's part of what you do and you go, hey, listen, I'm going to let that slide because, I know you're in having some trouble. That's pretty good. That's good stuff. So, well, we're going to be back right after the break. I promise this time we'll start talking about Uber.
Fair enough. That's right.
All right, great.
Yep.
We're going to be back right after the break. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Uber's coming up at the next segment.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
See 'em here, see 'em there. You got bad credit? We don't care.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com. Visit emetroford.com today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We are going to talk about the recent. I would probably on a Richter scale, I'd probably put the kerfuffle over the Uber thing at about a 0.02. It just didn't seem to register very much, at least in the population. Although I know a bunch of people who are excited that Uber's starting in Des Moines, and we're really excited about the free ride launch back in September, I think it was. But I know that you got some particular thought, and the city had a little bit of a reaction. So why don't you set this up? This is something you brought to me.
Well, Uber is a company that when it first started up, I thought, well, that's just kind of a crazy idea. But essentially what it does is it creates a database and, they screen the people that they drive. Basically, it's if you need a ride, give us a call. We'll send a driver and you pay the driver and it's a lot less than a taxi. Right. So it's terrific. So I'm thinking, that's kind of crazy because keep in mind, we're from Iowa.
Right.
I mean, everybody here drives. Everybody here has a car. And if you can't drive, you know somebody that does that can give you a ride, right? That's just one of the things. I mean, if you ever look at the MTA buses, I mean, the MTA here gets a lot of grief because even during rush hour, there's one person sitting on the bus, right? So most people can drive someplace here. So for us, it's really not that big of a deal, right? We can get around fine. Think about New York. When you're landing in New York, taxes there for a car, $2,500 a year, parking's outrageous, like at $5,000 a year, whatever. Yep. Well, suddenly, we took a cab from Times Square back to the Sofitel, which is like an 8-block drive, right? It was at night. So in New York at night, you take a cab. And by the time we got done, it's $35. I'm like, holy cow, $35 for 8 blocks?
Yeah, it's about I think it's like 30 to get from my place on the north side to the airport.
Yeah, using a taxi. That's ridiculous. Yeah, right? That's just nuts. My mom lives out there. I should say it this way. She lives out there by the truck stop. So it's in a nice area. He just happens to have a truck stop nearby, and she tells me she spends $50 getting a taxi ride from there. It's a 20-minute trip. It's nuts. Anyway. So it makes sense in bigger cities. Well, anyway, basically it's a big giant database and you say, hey, this is where I'm at and this is where I want to go. And then they send you an estimate of what the cost is going to be. And then they send your number to the guy who's going to drive you, and he calls you and you meet up and you go. And it's honest to goodness, it's a third to a half the cost of a taxi. And I had the opportunity, I flew out to LA here a little bit ago and I had an opportunity to use it. Well, it cost us $112 to go from the airport to the hotel. That's nuts, right? It's nuts. It's 13 miles for $112. Get the F out of here. Anyway, it's just LA, so whatever. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what the heck? I download this thing and see what happens. So I'm wanting to ride back, $34 from my hotel back to the airport. It's a quarter of the cost. And I'm like, this is great. I had to take an Uber down to the game show that we're at, right? And then back. Well, $12 each way. The cab would have been $30.
No,
and it was just nice. People show up, they're nice, they're insured. The car's clean. Anybody who's been in a cab knows that's a big deal. Well, so that's what it does.
Let me ask this question. My partner really likes Uber a lot. Uses it all the time here in town, especially if he's going to West Des Moines. Like if he and his wife are going to West Des Moines, have drinks. Neither one of them will drive even after one glass of wine, which is a great model.
And smart.
Yes, it hurts our business a little bit. that particular model,
and it hurts mine too.
Yeah, but that's a cynical, terrible thing. We don't really encourage that or endorse it anyway. But he likes it a lot, and it's a nice, cheap way to do it. But I don't know much about it. Okay, so this it started off as like a ride sharing thing, right? Where you call a buddy, or you send something out on social media, and then a random person that you don't know picks you up and you pay him for it. Now, does Uber regulate the prices at all? Or is it just whatever that driver thinks is fair?
Well, I think what they do is they get a range. They get a range of stuff. And then, because what they do, they don't say it's $12. They say it's from 7 to 15. And within that range is what they'll pay. And it depends on traffic and a bunch of stuff. And a lot of the technical aspects are beyond me. I mean, for crying out loud, we don't even run our own Facebook, right?
No, well, I understand that.
I don't know the technical aspects, but that's basically how it goes. And they say they screen them. They screen the people. They say that everybody has to have insurance. They all have to have a good driving record, and then they put them in a pool. And if you have the little Uber app, it shows little cars where they are, and then they'll send the closest one to you and pick you up. It's really good. So anyway, it's coming here to Des Moines, and invariably, just like out in New York, all the taxi operators all went, well, hey, that's not fair. We don't like those people. And so now they've gotten the city council to go, well, hey, I think we're going to regulate them, and we're going to try to regulate them out of business like they tried to do in New York. And in fact, I think they went to court over it. And the initial round in New York went to Uber. Now that, it's been, they're pumping it up. So my thing is why not have Uber? right? We've had taxi cabs. We've had them gouging at us for, 30 years or better. And why not have this service? It's no different than me saying, hey, Lefty, can you take me to the airport this morning? Yeah, but I need some gas money. It's exactly like that.
I don't have a I have no issue with any of that what you just said. I'm looking at the Des Moines Register from it's the article from 11 days ago, I guess, so it would be at the end of November. I think November 30th or 29th. And talking about some of the Transportation Network Vehicle Ordinance that Des Moines is discussing passing. It looks like they're not going to work on that until 2015. But here's some of the information from that. They would need proof of an extensive background check covering criminal, driving, and sex offender history, and commercial liability insurance with no less than $750,000 of coverage would be necessary. They would need that all these drivers would have to get an Iowa Class D chauffeur's license, perform quarterly vehicle inspections, and apply for a local certificate to operate that the city council must approve according to a draft sent to the stakeholders last week. That's quoting from the Des Moines Register. And I guess the only question would be, do taxis have to go through the same kind of process? Well, and if taxis do, isn't that leveling the playing field for this company that is trying to make a profit off of undercutting what a taxi is legally allowed to do?
Well, I'm going to respond first by saying one of my favorite phrases from John Stossel is, nobody hates capitalism more than a capitalist.
Right.
And the bottom line is taxis, that's what they do for a living. They're set up. They have everything in place, and they charge exorbitant rates, far more than what they essentially have is a monopoly, right? Mm-hmm. And so the city gets a lot of their taxes from the cab companies. Well, these people aren't professionals. They're just people working a part-time job. And if you're a person working a part-time job, it'd be like going in and saying, well, geez, you're a waitress. You're going to have to get a Class D license in order to serve a burger, right? So these people aren't doing it professionally. They're just doing it on the side. They could very easily put it on Craigslist and go, hey, listen, give me a call if you need a ride to the airport. This is just a different way of doing Craigslist, in my opinion.
Well,
and the other thing is why not have some innovation? One of the drawbacks is somebody in India apparently was accused of raping somebody.
Right. And
that's when all this controversy, what kind of background checks do you do? Well, Uber released background checks. They do a background criminal history check and background driving record check. Mm-hmm. And if you have any smudges on your driving record, you don't get a beep.
Well, here's another criticism. The only reason I'm asking these questions about this is that it's not just random people with a part-time job. Uber is making money off of this.
Oh yeah, so they're estimating $2 billion.
Yeah,
a year.
So this corporation is trying to enter this market, and that's fine. I have no problem with innovation. I have no problem with this kind of thing, providing some competition to an industry, the taxi driver industry, that has a monopoly over this particular form of transportation. But I think that there is a criticism that's a reasonable criticism to lodge against Uber for different kinds of things. I don't know about these ordinances, but apparently they don't provide a lot of data about their drivers. They refuse to release driver lists. They don't like to talk about information about their drivers unless they're really hounded about it. And that's something that is different than what a taxi company would do. It's not, Iowa's taxi industry is different than other big cities around the country, obviously, but you can call the taxi company and find out who their drivers are. It's just like a regular, what other company doesn't allow their employees or doesn't share information about their employees if asked by people with a legitimate reason, number one. Number two, here's the other thing, is Uber skirting a lot of different tax laws. Are these folks independent contractors or are they employees of Uber?
Well, and now that you brought up taxes, now that's a very good point. One of the things I know about startups is these guys are a completely different breed, right? I mean, these guys are, the cowboy nerds is what they are, cowboy geeks. And they're really brilliant, but they don't have a lot of these social animus that the rest of us have. Mm-hmm. And so they make a lot of mistakes. Look at Facebook, how many mistakes they make, and they're at 1.2 billion, despite all the criticisms that they get. Google, same thing. I think Uber is going through growing phases. I agree. I believe the primary motivation of these regulations in Des Moines is to make sure that Des Moines gets its part of the taxation. Now, the other stuff you brought up, that's something I haven't thought about the employees. That's entirely, I think that's legitimate. I think that should be cleared up. However, I think the reason it's a big deal is they're collecting taxes and can't collect taxes from Uber drivers. So
and that's another issue though, because I mean, we all know about the thing. You get $100 from a neighbor down the street to mow the lawn or whatever. It's a big lawn, I guess. But there's you pay him cash under the table, or you say, "Hey, watch my house, and here's $50," and no one's reporting that kind of stuff on their taxes, even though they're supposed to. And we kind of just look the other way. It's not the crime of the century, right? You're not committing tax fraud the way that the guys at Enron did, for example, obviously, but. This is more of a concern, I think, if you've got folks that are engaged in a trade where other people engaged in a similar trade are paying their fair share of taxes, just because the company is organized a little differently shouldn't allow folks to kind of take advantage of the technology that the rest of because we're always going to have society kind of catching up to what the technological geniuses want to do. I'm not saying I'm not against Uber by any means. I love innovation. That's my favorite. That's my only part of capitalism that I really enjoy. But
all right, now real quick before the break. Jason Hedden, who's a Facebook buddy of ours, comments on here. Uber is awesome. We use it all the time. Glad Cedar Rapids is getting on board, and hope Iowa City will too eventually. He wants to know why there's resistance from Des Moines. I think we just answered it. I think there's a lot of questions about taxation and how Des Moines is going to get its quote fair share. I think Des Moines needs to start going in the other direction, start cutting their spending and reducing taxes. I mean, flying out of Des Moines is the most expensive airport in the U.S. The most expensive airport in the U.S. for what? I mean, it's a crappy little airport. I mean, honest to goodness. Anyway, we're going to be back right after the break. We're going to start this next segment, discuss lower oil prices and fracking. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We want to thank our sponsors, Bertrosian Associates, Lubinas Law Firm, DesMoinesInterestrates.com, and that's Halo Capital. Don't you miss Lee Heeb?
I do.
Yeah, that was always fun saying that. Des Moines Anesthesia PC at 515-574-6442. Follow us at Facebook and Twitter, and don't forget to check out our blogs, because I'm going to have 2 blogs up this week, one about fracking and one about the Obama hangover.
I've written 2 that haven't been posted, that need to have been posted 3 weeks ago.
Really? I'll get on John.
That's right.
I'll get on Jen. So anyway, thanks everybody tuning in. We'll be back right after this break.
Bertrosian Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrosianassociates.com for more information, or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around for the second half hour of the show. It is a very rare occurrence that Doc sets the entire agenda. Generally, I have some input into what we're going to talk about. The last couple of weeks, was me booking the guests while he was traveling and doing his very important charity work around the world. But day to day, when it's just the two of us in the studio, you and I get together and figure out what we're going to talk about, and I have more of a direct influence on the show. But today you want to talk about this about falling oil prices, and
just a second. We got a couple of things I should have been looking. One, I was informed that Uber does issue 1099
they're independent contractors.
So they're independent contractors. And second, my brother Joe made a very good point. If I would simply give my mom a ride to the airport, she wouldn't have to get a taxi. That's true.
That's true.
But it's not like I don't run my own medical clinic or anything. But that's fine, Joe. Anyway, back to fracking.
Well, and I was curious, and you set the agenda, and it is fascinating to me one more time to see conservatives get bent out of shape. Here we have falling oil prices that are contributing to the lowering of gas prices to reasonable levels, finally not seen since the beginning of the Bush days, honestly.
Yeah, and that's true.
And yet...
Well, but when he left office, it was $1.86 a gallon for regular gasoline.
And yet, once again... there's a problem with Obama because oil is falling. The price of oil is falling. Obama has done something terrible. So what? So please, Doc, blame Obama for affordable gas. I can't wait. I really can't wait.
Well, keep in mind. Well, first of all, let's talk just a bit about why gas prices are falling. There's two different things that happened kind of simultaneously. One, India and China, who are the largest consumers of oil, far more than America is overall, their economies are slowing down. Now, India went from something like 9% growth rate to 5.6% growth rate.
And China's in the same boat, and it's going to be trouble for the entire world in about 5 years.
I'm going to say sooner, but yeah, you and I agree it's going to be a lot of trouble coming down
in the short term. But people have been predicting that for a long time.
Yes,
that they couldn't maintain the pace of grove they've been maintaining.
But they fell from over 8% down to around like 0.5 to 1%. I mean, in the last 6 months. I mean, they've really taken a hit. So suddenly, all this oil that was going to them is available on the market now. That in itself is going to lower the price a little bit. And people had estimated at the time that this all started happening, people estimated because the gas price of oil was $116 a barrel,
right,
dropped from 116 to somewhere around 100. That's what they predicted. At the same time, the fracking oil from bitumen sands is the one I can think of, but there's several others where they do a lot of fracking. That has also increased. The amount that we have produced in America from fracking in the last 6 months is more than the output of every Middle Eastern country with the exception of Saudi Arabia. So you can add up all the other Middle Eastern countries and we produce more than them in the last 6 months. That glut is what has led to the prices falling. Now, here's and despite Obama's EPA trying to regulate the heck out of everything, trying to make energy prices more expensive for everybody out there, and especially for those who can't afford it. I mean, honest to goodness, if diesel was $10 a gallon, I'd still be driving my truck, right? But there are people that are poor, that work hard to make money, and they need their car to go back and forth to work. If they're having to pay $10 a gallon for gas, then it's going to punish them. And then that's an entire ripple effect. We have diesel electric trains. They run on gas. We have trucks that transport gas everywhere. Honestly, that's one of the reasons I think the economy hasn't recovered as well as it could, is simply because energy prices, everything is skyrocketed, and then it's fallen. And the kicker with this is despite the liberals' efforts at every turn to limit fracking, we still are able to produce this much oil from a limited amount of fracking we've done. Now hold on a second. Mm-hmm. Save that question. We've run up against the time limit because I got to yakking a lot. So we're going to be back right after this break. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. When we get back, we'll continue our discussion about fracking, what it's done for America, how it's lowered oil prices, and how internationally we can use our ability to suck up oil and produce oil as a weapon against countries that mean us no good. We'll be back right after this break. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from my Sumito credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're hero!
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around with the Doc and Lefty program on webcast1live.com and also docandlefty.com. This is Lefty here. We're talking about the oil issue in this country. And it was, I'm just going to go out and say it. I am much more even-handed, reasonable, and, I don't know, emotionally put together about this president my partner is. I think that he would agree with that, where I don't flightily jump from hate monger to hate monger with respect to the president. Now,
bring up Bush now. Bring up Bush. We got a different situation.
Obviously I'm absolutely kidding because this is what because I would never accuse you of being a regular sort of conservative, or at least profiting off of bashing the president, because frankly we're not profiting from doing much bashing at all. But this is my the observation that I made, because I saw this a few weeks ago about the oil prices as they are today. Obviously, and I would never accuse you of not knowing, that President Obama has nothing to do with the price of oil, the price of gas, absolutely nothing. Right?
Well, but hold on here.
Nothing.
No, that's not true. Nothing. I will tell you that the supply and demand for the most part drives the prices of everything. I agree with that. Mm-hmm. But if you are sitting there interfering with the ability to produce oil, if you make it so expensive we can't drill new wells,
right?
Then doesn't.
But he obviously hasn't done that, because we've had an increase due to the private sector that has been drilling this entire time for the last 20, 30 years.
Well, but most of this fracking stuff hasn't been around for the last 20, 30 years.
Yes, it has, actually.
Yeah, I know. But
the fracking industry has been around for a long time.
But what's driven all of our production lately is gas price or oil prices around $120 a barrel. That's what's driven this latest thing, is because the price of oil is so high. Because that way you can overcome it. But
right, it was finally economically feasible. Once again, a free market principle, nothing to do with the president. You're talking about the EPA regulations at the last estimate, which they've been around, and they were introduced back in 2012 and have been in effect this entire time for the most part. New oil standards were coming up against the blend wall here in, I think, 2015, 2016. That's something that Iowans are very opposed to, but the rest of the country is kind of on board with, just because it would hurt us in the corn pocketbook. But they've contributed on estimate, and there's no good way to come up with a number, 6 to 9 cents a gallon, right? Now, I'm not saying that a family of 4 that's poor couldn't use that extra 6 to 9 cents a gallon if they're driving their car to work every day. And I'm perfectly sympathetic with that. But to say that the president is responsible for that, when the president was certainly not responsible for the high gas prices, President Bush certainly wasn't responsible for the gas prices, got no love nor hate or shouldn't have, because he did, just the way that Obama has. That's what I'm talking about, being even-handed here. The president of the United States has no responsibility whatsoever for the gas prices as they rise and fall. That's just how it works.
Well, but that's not true at all.
It is true.
He's responsible for directing the EPA on how they engage. Because we talk about laws versus regulations a lot.
Right.
And he's directed them in such a way that the regulations make it much more difficult to frack and increases the cost.
If our regulations are so bad, why is gas still falling?
Well, because everybody started producing here. We finally got all of our fracking stuff in line, and they're producing a lot more at this time. It just happens that China and India have backed off a little bit, and we've had this flood of production.
And sanctions on Russia.
And sanctions on Russia, that's for sure. But Russia's going to lower their price to try to compete. But the bottom line is the regulations that he's encouraging the EPA to engage in,
that the
people at the local levels are engaging in, is making it difficult to produce more oil. Now, we just happen to be a beneficiary where we figured out how we can do it. The other thing is Canada doesn't have the regulations that the U.S. has. So bitumen sands is in Canada, and they're piping a ton of oil out into the market. And I mean, but to say that President Obama and his organization and his government have no influence at all on the price of oil and gas is really just, I will say that I would agree that market prices will probably drive that more than the regulations. But still, it comes back to
how do you blame the
throw in the gas tax? You said something about 69 cents a gallon for a gas tax.
629. Iowa's gas tax is different. That's a different thing. There is.
Well, I wasn't going to mention that, but federal gas taxes. The new regulations, I would agree. Let's say we'll just call it 8 cents a gallon.
I'm talking about sulfur emissions and things like that.
Yeah, 8 cents a gallon. But then you add in all the other stuff, all the other regulations from beforehand. You're really talking at least 40 cents a gallon. That's what it was when I was running for Congress. It hasn't changed since then. It's gotten more expensive, maybe closer to 50 cents a gallon.
Well, those are estimated costs because the taxes on unleaded gasoline, and somebody please correct me on this, they are not driven nor passed by the EPA. That's a congressional thing.
Well, but like you said before, laws are passed and the regulations are from the government unit that's designed to enforce those laws.
But so there's a federal gas tax.
There's a federal gas tax, but then you start talking about all the other regulations that support that law that essentially become a tax. I mean, that's what it is.
You're talking about... There's a set number, and if you're talking about how regulations inflect gas prices, then you're talking about estimated costs that go into, say, hey, it's going to cost production this much more to get sulfur dioxide down to where it needs to be. It's going to cost production this much more to get carbon monoxide. That's no. It's the cost of doing business. They're not taxes. Please be responsible with your language. They're not taxes like the way that you think about, FICA.
Well, like Obamacare is not a tax?
No, the Supreme Court says Obamacare is a tax. That's a completely different thing.
There you go. This is a tax.
That's a completely different thing. But no, here
I'm looking it up real quick. Let's move on.
Hold on a second, because I want to talk about the business. Forbes.com has got this article where they cite the Business Insider's report. Morgan Stanley is predicting that the price of barrel of oil will drop as low as $43 a barrel in 2015, making the argument that we have somehow overly burdened the oil companies by not behaving foolishly with federal land leases for drilling all the more ridiculous. The oil is dropping regardless of what you have to say about we need to have more oil leases out there. We need to drill more on federal lands. So square that circle for me. How is the Obama administration, which is both in your mind, both so incompetent it can't even tie its own shoes, and so powerful that it can keep you from tying your own shoes, both at the same time?
It's called the head idiot theory.
The
head idiot theory is
the oil
you get a group of idiots together and you have one that goes, you know what, I can't run my own life, but I can certainly run yours. That's the head idiot theory. You wanted how I squared that circle. There you go. It's a well-known thing.
I want to know that you spent more than 30 seeds coming up with that. I spent
16 years in medical school coming up with that one. Listen, it's all right. So here's how much we spend in tax. Federal tax on a gallon of regular gasoline, there's just the stuff you go out there and pump out, nothing special, is 20 cents a gallon. For diesel, it's about 25 cents a gallon. Mm-hmm. So you add, and this one is from January of 2013. Mm-hmm. So if you add all the EPA regulations and additional, let's call it an 7% or 7 cent tax, you're talking about a 25% or 25 cents per gallon tax. That's a lot of money in a year. I barely drive anywhere, and I use 600 gallons of gas, right? Mm-hmm. You talk about somebody who's having to commute from Newton to here, mm-hmm. and you're talking a lot of money. You're talking, $4,000 or $5,000 in a year, easily.
Yeah.
So I mean those costs are significant. Now we've come up to the end of the segment. Lefty and I are going to argue about whether we are going to come back and try to frack each other over this, or if we're going to go on and talk about the Obama hangover. Either way, it's going to be a great last segment. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back right after this break.
Bertroche and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrocheandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.
Hey, well, everybody, we're here for the last segment,
and we're still arguing over it.
We're still complaining at each other. Doc over the break was looking up the Iowa gas tax, and I had to point out to him, not tongue-in-cheek or snarky and snide at all, that his governor that he just helped reelect by an overwhelming margin, has been advocating for raising the gas tax, calling it, a user fee?
Yeah,
I think
something like that.
And that's language
that user fee, then it's not a tax. I'm going to tell you, here's something. Out of every governor, Republican or Democrat, that ran and had advocated this last election cycle and advocated for gas tax, all got defeated. Every single one of them. And so I think Branstad was smart not to make that a key thing. I think he could have roasted a baby on live TV and still would have won.
Well,
it depends on
how many babies.
It would depend on how many babies.
I gotta think 3 or 4. I gotta think if
it would have been a 3 or 4 baby election. Is that what you're trying to say?
3 or 4, and I think that some folks from the family leader would have started to think, you know what, man, we should probably reconsider our support for Terry Branstad. Why don't we set a meeting after the election to decide whether or not we're going to have his back?
At least I'm going to rot in hell.
Yeah,
for saying that. Oh my God, my face is so red. Anyway, anybody I've offended out there, I'm sorry. I just get to clowning around.
Yep. Well, if you can't joke about roasting babies, what can you joke about? On your own radio show.
If you don't have a sense of humor,
we don't want him to do that.
No, we don't. We're not advocating baby roasting in any way.
No, we're not. We're certainly not the tastemakers in that regard.
Yes, I'm just trying to say exactly how bad it would have had to be for Branstad to lose.
Yes.
So. Anyway, so
don't worry, all the PC thugs are from my side of the aisle. So, and because I'm on the show, they won't attack us.
Okay, good.
I'm running interference for it.
No death threats tonight.
Nope.
It's a good show when we walk out of here and don't have death threats. It's always good.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, I'm going to check my text. Oh, my friend Jason, who's been texting, hasn't texted anything about that. He's probably still rolling on the floor.
Fantastic.
So are we going to go with fracking, or are we going to go to the Obamacare hangover?
Define Obamacare hangover? What do you mean by that?
Well, here's Harry Reid said when they pressed it, this is something that Democrats can be able to hang their hats on, and it's going to be an issue they can win on. Well, the truth of the matter is this is something that has cost Democrats dearly. There are some, particularly in the financial community, who have likened Obamacare to Watergate. Now, I'm just going to be right out there and say, as a conservative, I don't think this rises to the level of Watergate. One, a bunch of liberals supported it, so it's never going to be as badly covered as Watergate was. And two, this doesn't have anything
Hold on a second. Are you comparing Obamacare to a felony break-in at a hotel?
And that was my second point.
Presidential cover-up?
No, I just got done saying. Hold on.
Let me tell you.
Hold on. You were looking at your phone and not paying attention.
I was paying attention.
Let me go back and say what I said. Some people, particularly in the financial segments, said it was the equivalent to Watergate. And I said specifically, I don't think it rises to that level.
Okay.
Because, see, that's the part you're missing because you're busy on your phone. These younger generations,
just fact-checking you.
You have to learn to talk to them like this.
Just fact-checking
just like
you.
that.
I have to be on, no, folks, I have to be on Google 24/7 to make sure this guy's not
How many times have you caught me out? 4 or 5?
In the last couple of days? No, I haven't. I haven't. Go ahead.
We're getting a little loopy. I think it's been a long day.
Well, this is what happens when I get overly tired.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And I haven't had my nap.
Yeah, well, order your coffee. How come our producer is fetching his coffee?
Because she doesn't.
We're chauvinist?
Probably.
Anyway, back to the point. Lefty's next point is right. Watergate's a felony. Holy cow, your president committed a felony, then tried to cover it up. There's no comparison here. But as far as the damage goes, I think it does rise to the level of damage that it's doing to the Democratic Party that Watergate did to the Republican Party. I believe that the damage itself is out there. Keep in mind, at least 16 senators have retired because of it or have been beaten straight out in the election because of it. Now, 30 of the senators who voted for it are now out for various reasons. One died. Some, like John Kerry, went on to Secretary of State, and some just retired, and the regular stuff. But it's telling that 8 of the senators that voted for it were voted straight out of office, and the another 8 said, "There's no way I'm going to win, so I'm out." So I mean, I think it's rising to that level. The hangover effect is, Iowa's own Senator Tom Harkin is like, well, I really think we botched it on this one. He doesn't use that phrase, but he said, I think there was a lot of mistakes were made. And, I kind of regret that we passed it as quickly as we did. I think that was his direct quote. So when you have Tom Harkin, Teddy Kennedy II saying, I'm having regrets about this on his way out the door, maybe that's an Obamacare hangover. The other thing is everything that the naysayers like me predicted: higher prices, reduced availability of your physician, overcrowding of available patient care slots, exorbitant rates for very little coverage. All those things have so far have panned out. Now, it might be one of these things where it's a shock to the system and the insurance companies over a period of the next few years are going to get things worked out. But so far, I've had a lot of patients come in who switched from Medicaid, by the way, which great. I'm glad that you want to be part of society, but really we sold them a pig in a poke as far as that goes, because a lot of these people are paying $350 a month, getting a $250 subsidy, and still paying $350 a month for plans that have anywhere between $5,000 to $12,000, in one case $20,000 deductible.
All I can tell,
that's ridiculous.
Here's what I can give you: one perfect kind of I can give you a couple of different anecdotes, but here's what I can tell you in my experience dealing with the people that I deal with every single day. Okay. I deal with a lot, and I'll try to make this quick, but it's a complicated story. I deal with a lot of folks who are in trouble with DHS for one reason or another, and what comes down to a lot are is drug treatment or is financial situation with their housing, unstable housing, different things along those lines, and since the passage of the Affordable Care Act, since it went into effect and they expanded Medicaid in this state, and also people who are on the border with Medicaid or wouldn't qualify for Medicaid were able to get subsidies because they were just over it. More and more of my clients have been able to get health insurance that covers them for things like drug screens that are being required by the state at this point. So I've had a lot of push when I say that's a good thing, that's positive. I had a lot of pushback from people saying, well, they don't even deserve it. Why are my tax dollars helping those folks get cleaned up? You want those people cleaned up. You want these families put back together. My own fiance, my very lovely fiance, just got re-signed up for coverage in 2015 and would be eligible. And this is the kind of flexibility that doesn't get talked about enough. Would be eligible for a subsidy that would take her insurance down to $50 a month. The plan as it stands is like $150, $160, and she qualifies for subsidy that would be taken down to $50 a month. And she is, because you can do this, opting out of taking the full subsidy and paying what we can afford to pay per month for her, and still maintaining that same level quality of care of insurance through that plan that is actually priced a little bit higher. I think that sort of thing is really the big advantage of the system, and has, even though it doesn't work as well as a single payer system would, and hopefully we'll get to a point where that's where the industry is and the voting public are able to accept that, but there are a lot of good things about it that don't get the coverage they deserve, and a lot of the bad things that have happened don't happen as much as being claimed.
All right. Now, there's one thing I'm going to agree with Lefty on this. A lot of my conservative friends say, geez, we're paying for these people. This is awful, blah, 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 on and on. These are people that are Christian conservatives in name only. And I'm going to repeat something that Stephen Day said, who nobody can discuss that this guy is not a Christian conservative. It is our responsibility as Christians to make sure families stay intact. And it's our responsibility as Christians to help those in need.
And it costs a lot less when they're helping pay for it themselves.
Well, and that's the part where we disagree. a lot of times, and the other thing is Lefty's experience with his clientele is different than the experience that I have with my patients. And it's an argument on both sides of the aisle. We've run up against the time. I think we've had a pretty good show.
I think so too. Let's pat ourselves on the back.
Woo! Oh, I hurt my shoulder.
I can't do it either.
Hey, Maddie. That's Maddie's job. Maddie's got to come pat us in the back.
We need a lot of validation.
We do want to thank DJ Maddie G for being our producer. We like her very much. Her other people that it's Ed Fallon who she produces for on the other side.
Yep.
So, wow, we're in a big time. We want to thank everybody out there for tuning in and listening. We'll be back next week with a different set of topics. I want to say a special shout out to Andrew Buell, who is going to go have his own medical show. Congratulations, my man. You deserve it. You going to be doing anything this week besides trying to hunt up a gig?
No. I'm just trying to keep ahead of the wolf pack, my man.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week.
See ya.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Love both of them.